Hi, everyone. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to You Still Matter, a show about seniors and those who love them. If this is your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. And I'm welcoming you to be a part of our You Still Matter family. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. So excited about my guest today. Oh my goodness. There's often times when seniors may feel a little isolated or left out, but listen, we have someone here today that is going to certainly encourage you. His name is Ken Corley. Ken, how are you today?
We're doing great, Don, and thank you for the opportunity to be an encourager.
Oh, listen, it's always a delight to have you here. I'm just so excited. And I know that many times seniors feel, in your words, shut down and shut out and possibly shut in as well. So, kind of explain to everyone what that means to you.
Well, I just feel like that in the society that we live in, that we're isolated, even though we live in communities and we have beautiful houses and property, but sometimes we don't know our neighbors. We don't feel that we're part of a community in different ways. And that has such an adverse effect on us as seniors, especially if we don't have purpose in our life and what we do every day. David in the Psalm said, "Let my mouth be filled with your praise and with your glory all the day. Do not cast me off in the time of old age." And then he goes on to say, "Until I declare your strength to this generation, your power to everyone who is to come." And David's goal with everything that he had accomplished in his old age, he still cried out that there would be a usefulness for his experience. And I think that, as we've talked about before, that seniors, because of their age, they've experienced so much. And that does not need to be taken to the grave with us. That book that you're going to write, that person that you want to influence, those children, those grandchildren. God has given us gifts that He said were foreordained from the very foundation of the earth. So you're gifted. Some folks like to cook. Personally, I like to cook, but for my wife and I, only two of us can eat only so much. So I love sharing with my neighbors, and that has opened so many doors for us in building relationships with people. And so, whatever giftings that you have, could be music, it could be sitting with someone. The greatest gift that God gives us is His presence. He says, "My presence will be with you." And so don't take your dreams. Don't take these giftings that you have to the grave whenever there's something that every day is truly a new day, even when it's raining. You know, above the clouds, it may be 1,000 miles of 1,000 foot of wet weather, but above that's 93 million miles of sunlight. So there's much more for us to experience many times than what we realize. I have a mother-in-law who passed at 101 years old, and she had served with my father-in-law in ministry for 65 years. But then when she was 89, she says, "I want to stay active." So she got married again. So her and the gentleman she married, he would play the harmonica, she would play the keyboard. They would go to nursing homes or they would work in the church, and they served together. He passed away at 100, and she got to looking again. She was ready to go on with her life. And so even at 100 years old, I asked her one day, I said, "Mom," I said, "what would you say to the next generation about a long life and a purposeful life?" And she paused and she thought and she said, "Well, every day," she says, "I choose to be happy." And so the assisted living home where she lives, when she passed, they had shirts printed up that had that phrase, because just her presence and her outlook on life encouraged them. And so they had the t-shirts, and on Thursdays they would wear those t-shirts. "I choose to be happy." And then I asked her, I said, "Mom Lee," I said, "what do we pray about today?" She paused and she thought, she said, "Every day," she said, "I just want to please Jesus." And it brought such encouragement to me that at 100 years of age, passing at 101, that she just had this forward look. So if you're going to be used and be productive, go ahead, even though you might think you're going to fail, but fail forward. Be moving ahead in the kingdom, be moving forward in your life and looking out. You can look into the past, but you'll never return to the past. You can only look ahead. And God's got great promises for us that trust Him and are looking forward to the future and especially serving. The last act of Jesus at the Passover was to wash the feet of His disciples and said, go and do likewise, go and love one another. And of course, they were offended to think He would wash their feet, but it gave such an example as to how we can serve, we can support, we can encourage other people.
Absolutely. Oh, that was beautiful. And I just wanted to kind of circle back to something that you said about making sure that you don't take your gifts with you. I know also Miles Monroe said that the cemetery is the wealthiest place on earth.
Wow.
And he said the reason for that is because so many people are there that never sang their song, never wrote their book,
Yeah.
never gave their presentation, just like you were saying, don't take it with you. And I know that you had also said that if you fail forward. But we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I would like for you to just kind of elaborate a little bit more on failing forward. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So we'll be right back. Hey everyone, how are you today? Hope you're doing well. I have a question for you, and I want you to be honest. Have you ever said to yourself you wanted to write a book? And you may have said it a few months ago, a few years ago, but you've been procrastinating because you're not sure where or how to get started. Well, we at CourteousPublications.com would like to help you put an end to your procrastination. You know that you've overcome challenges, you have testimonies, you have so much wisdom. And this is something that you will be able to share your testimony with the masses once you give birth to your book. So listen, procrastinate no more. Go to www.courteouspublications.com, click contact, and then check mark free discovery call because we would love to speak with you about the book that is buried inside of you. Miles Monroe once said that one of the wealthiest places on earth is a cemetery. That's because there's so many people that never had an opportunity to sing their song. They never have an opportunity to write their book because of procrastination. All right, so once again, we would love to help you give birth to your book. Go to www.courteouspublications.com, click contact, and then check mark free discovery call. We would love to speak with you. All right, so no more procrastination. Thank you for listening, and we hope to speak with you soon. Bye for now. All right, we are back and just so delighted that Ken is giving us a spiritual uplift. And of course, we all need that, right? I know we're primarily talking about seniors, but everybody can certainly benefit from this. So, but if you would, I know you mentioned failing forward. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I think that we want to be a success, and God's never called us to be a success. He's just called us to be obedient, and the success of it is left up to Him. And I guess the question that comes, are we willing to do something? Are we willing to plant a seed of encouragement to grow a tree that will never eat the fruit off of it? We'll pass on into the next life and not know the impact that we need. But that's a legacy. And how many people have changed the world by something they passed on to someone else? Now, I don't want to draw attention to myself, but I do some songwriting. And one of the songs that I've written is Bury Me by the Highway Where the Ragged People Go. Sit down by my tombstone and I'll tell you what I know. And if they still had upright tombstones, I'd put on that tombstone, don't give up, there is hope, you are loved. Just that, just those phrases for someone to look at. And sometimes it's just a word that we give that changes people's life. It's such a small thing, but how powerful words are that hurt us, that keep us back, but then how powerful encouraging words are. With waiters and waitresses, I often ask when they come up to my table, I'll see their tattoos and I say, "Tell me about your tattoo." And they're glad to talk about their tattoos. Well, immediately I kind of build a bridge, and before we eat and they bring my food out, I said, "Well, listen, we're about to bless our food. Can we include any prayer requests that you might have?" Invariably, they'll share a mother or something going on with them physically. But, you're not there. You can't convert people. That's God's place. I'm not trying to fill seats in the church. I'm trying to get people out of the seat into the streets to share what God has done. So, as a senior, God has ways to use us that we've never even considered if we have an open heart. And He
Mm-hmm.
sees our hearts and He sees your heart. You may be shut in, you may be shut out of life, but God knows your heart. And let me just say this, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there were very powerful leaders that were in prison. Daniel, Joseph, Nehemiah. Then you get in the New Testament, Paul, but they wrote most of the Bible out of jail. They
Mm-hmm.
were in jail writing the Bible. So to me, that's a powerful example of just, you may feel locked in, locked out, locked away, but there is a way, there's a key, let's put it that way. There's a key to getting into the lives of other people if you're willing to be a servant like Jesus was. And He was a foot washer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has, during Passover right now, that is such a beautiful example of how we can serve. If you Now, my wife tells me, now listen, if you'll just keep washing the dishes and washing the clothes, you don't need to wash my feet. So I, I'm willing to serve in that capacity.
That's wonderful. I love that. And hello to Amanda too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. But you know what, Ken, I just so appreciate every time we chat because you're so inspiring and you are certainly a definition of why seniors need to feel that they do still matter. Of course, the name of our program is You Still Matter. And I think you have proved that in more ways than one. And so
Yeah.
I thank you so much for that. I know you will be back at another time to continue to encourage us. I so appreciate you again. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, no matter your age, no matter who you are, no matter how you feel, always remember that you still matter. Okay? And so thanks again for tuning in. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon. And bye for now.